Hello and welcome back to the Dwarven Tavern. I am your host, Ian Goen, and with me today is...
Lyric Goins.
And...
Dr. Jeff Goins.
And today we're answering more questions.
This is kind of a part two.
It is.
Questions
it's not kind of a part two.
It's
exactly
exactly a part two.
It's exactly.
We're continuing answering the questions on the exact same sheet in the exact same table about 15 minutes after the first one.
So let's hop into it. The next question. Greetings.
Wait.
Let's all together now.
1, 2, 3.
Greetings to the dwarves.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. Goins.
Hi.
This has been weighing on my mind a lot of late, mostly because we have a little gamer on the way. Or
No!
at least I hope.
We were just talking about that in the last video. Little gamers, little story.
I say, pay attention.
Take the dice. Roll the dice.
I say, at least I hope, because my wife is paranoid about when I'll start teaching our baby to game. I really
As soon as it comes out. As soon as it hatches.
Let me finish the email. As soon as it hatches. I think we need to teach him something.
Yeah, we need to have a talk, son.
I really like that the tavern is a family that games together, so I wanted to know, when is it considered too soon to start teaching your kids to play? I'm talking especially Dungeons & Dragons and similar games. Keep up with the good work, Leslie from South Carolina.
Awesome. Okay, well, I will field that one.
I honestly don't even know if there's a wrong time to start, because the Easter campaign was amazing.
Yeah, the Easter campaign when you were wee tots. And,
I was like 12 years old.
The oldest tavernier, the oldest child tavernier. I'm the oldest
Second
tavernier.
generation.
The second generation tavernier, Lissa, cut her teeth on a 20-sided die and actually broke it in half. So that might have been too young, but there is no too early to introduce them to the sights and sounds and knowledge of gaming, because I know a lot of gamers. We've met thousands and thousands of gamers from Gen Con and all over the world, and I would say that most of them could probably get an honorary degree in like history or mathematics or physics or
applied
whatever.
Mathematics.
Biology.
Yeah, applied mathematics, more
Xenology.
Xenology, sociology, anthropology, archaeology,
Just throw the degrees in
architecture, cartography, anything. Gamers are some of the most intelligent people in the world, as we all know. But I can't see any downside to having your child's playpen next to the gaming table if they're too little to actually roll the dice.
Well, it's like when I was...
Choking
it
hazard.
just reminded me, when I was, like... Don't eat that. When I was super young, I remember looking at my character sheet. Super young! But when I was a really tiny kid, I remember holding the 20-sided die. And I was looking at it going, okay, that's a 20. Oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing my experience points. How many did we get? And Dad said 50. And I'm like, whoa. And I wrote down 50, and I was like, wait a minute. I have 70 experience points, and now I have 50 more. What happens when it gets over 2 digits? And that I remember that because that freaked me out for like a half hour trying to figure out what the hell 7 plus 5 with 2 O's at the end did. I was looking at it going, what happens? And
So this was like a week ago?
but the lyric was like, yeah, that's totally like 1. I was like, impossible! But yeah, so that's like how and what's funny is I remember because the next day I went into like 3rd grade and we were learning how to do triple digit math, and I was like, ha, I've already done this.
I'm a boss at this.
Yeah.
I actually,
that's a really good analogy.
One of my earliest experiences with gaming, I have two things that I want to say. The first one is, one of my earliest experiences with gaming is not a memory of my character, but of someone else's character. I take that back. Earlier than that is when I wanted to game with Ian and the other Tavernier, Lindsay, with their troublemaker characters.
Mm-hmm.
It was Bob Troublemaker and Lindsay was Molly Troublemaker, and I wanted to be a troublemaker too. Because I was Mrs. Goody Two Shoes when I was 10 and below, and I wanted to like not take my shoes off when I got in the house, and I wanted to leave the dishes in the sink. I wanted to be a bad girl. So Dad, being the amazing dungeon master that he is, decided you can roll up a character. Ian and Lindsay weren't happy with that because that was their thing. So I rolled up Flower Troublemaker, and that was before even 3rd grade. That was like first
characters.
or second. So I was really dinky when we played those characters.
It's like basically we were so young that our writing was pretty much hieroglyphics at the time.
And the second thing that I wanted to bring up is when I was in 7th grade, I actually did a project on why Dungeons and Dragons is extremely helpful for children. And I was in 7th grade when I wrote this, and I said it helps with mathematics, it expands your vocabulary, and it expands your horizons. I wasn't very creative at that age, but I explained this, and my teachers were just sitting there like, oh my god, how does she know this? And like, they could not wrap their mind around it, that this little 11-year-old was doing a project that was explaining stuff that she wasn't supposed to know yet.
Right.
So, I think that, I mean, obviously there are things for your children that you shouldn't introduce too
Right, yeah,
early.
you don't want to, I mean, we've got the book of erotic fantasy up there.
Somewhere
That's probably,
in there.
it's right there. There's some things that you don't want to do, obviously. I mean, it should be obvious. If
Right.
you use a tiny sprinkling of common sense, you know not to introduce them to adult themes before, they can handle it.
Or, just be a complete douche. Like, first little characters who are,
10,
6,
7, and 4 years old.
and they're like, haha, and bugbears.
And you're all dead. Haha, that's life. Get over it. That's probably a bad. That's probably a bad
Probably
thing.
not the best
Now
thing.
there's another game that is, and there are actually games. I don't think we got any for review this last time, but there are some games more and more coming out that are kid oriented. The first one was a game from a wonderful friend of mine named Chris Clark, who has a company. I don't see the game, but it's called Fuzzy Heroes.
Ba-ba-da-dum.
And it's one where you can take little G.I. Joes and strawberry shortcakes and Beanie Babies and stuff like that and turn them into player characters.
We usually played with Beanie Babies because that was what was mostly on hand at the time.
And that is very
It's for 90s
specifically
kids.
a kid-oriented game, and it teaches math and it teaches physics and it teaches all the stuff that you can get in role-playing, but it's designed for kids. And that's definitely how to start. As far as an earliest age, there isn't one.
Right.
It just as the development of every individual child, that is up to the individual as far as what they can handle and what they can't. Every child develops at a different pace at a different time. And so you can't say, well, definitely 3.
Yeah, that's
Because
ridiculous.
I know some 30-year-olds who can't handle it. and older.
I know people my age who they don't get it. They just don't.
They don't get it at all. And it's hard for them to even, and there are some who they just should not have, they shouldn't be allowed. I mean, the dice should get a restraining order against these people because they just have no business gaming.
But there's actually a young girl that I know. She's about 10 years old, and her parents are kind of iffy about letting her game, and she's actually super interested in it.
Really?
And I really, really encourage teaching. Like, if they're curious, if they actually they're the ones that initiate wanting to game, then I think that you should let them. I think that if you teach your children to begin with, then it's all good and dandy. But if you decide to refrain and then you're gaming without them and then like, hey, Daddy, what are you playing? Can I play too? Sure, daughter,
come up here and
on
watch
up
me. You
here.
sit right up here on my lap and you can help me roll the dice.
There
you
you
change
go.
out your character for Plasma.
Plasma.
And then it will never be the same again.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a very good answer.
Okay. So the next question says, "Hi, Dwarven Tavern. Question for Ian. What video games do you think best portray the fantasy world? I want to explain to my parents that I play Dungeons and Dragons without scaring them off, but I think D&D MMO is not accurate enough. Got any suggestions? Thanks, your forever faithful viewer, Richie M. from Texas.
That's an incredibly hard question. Because video games just don't... They just can't portray it in at least an accurate light. Because, like, Skyrim and games like Baldur's Gate, actually all the Baldur's Gate games.
Those are actually D&D.
They're actually D&D games, but they just don't...
There's not enough in it to really show the concept of D&D.
You can't Dungeons and Dragons accurately with fantasy and make it into a video game. Because it just doesn't work. Because you have to have... Okay, the Dungeon Master is a player as well. Mm-hmm. It is not... Okay, in a video game, you have the characters going through a scenario that the computer puts together and makes work. The Dungeon Master is a player that actually creates the scenarios and, like, changes how they work depending on the characters. And... It's difficult.
Let me share an anecdote with you. My buddy Gary and I are long-term gamers. I mean, Gary actually got me into gaming way back when I was about 14 years old. And of course, we grew up and had kids. And his
not together. Let's make that distinction real quick.
We had wives, and he had a son. Has a son named Travis. Hi, Travis. I will tag you in this. And Travis was a very wee tot. And he hadn't played actual Dungeons and Dragons yet, which I did smack Gary straight in the head for that. It's like, your son is like almost 9 years old and he hasn't played Dungeons and Dragons yet. Gary's like, I'm so ashamed. But Travis actually cut his teeth on the Baldur's Gate game. And so Gary and I got together for one of our rare grown-up free moments of gaming. And Travis came in and was watching us and was going to join, because that's the reason I was there, was to help Travis learn how to play. And because Gary said he wanted to indoctrinate, Travis into gaming, which, I would stop slapping him at that point. And so Travis sat between us and he said, yeah, I've got a third level something or other ranger. I played a ranger class in that, and he was describing his escapades in... Escapades? It's escapades.
I was going to say.
And so he was describing his escapades in the video game, and then he finally asked, is D&D, is the tabletop version like that? And we went,
You're adorable.
You're such a cute young lad.
Yeah. And we have much to teach you.
And then we proceeded to give him nightmares for the next few years, because the actual game can be much darker and much more challenging and much more different
and complex
and much more complex.
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
And
any video game.
You go into the tavern, there's not a barkeep with a golden exclamation point over their head. It's just video games are too different than tabletop.
Too different.
One different and two different.
That is twice as much as one. So
good job. You can
mathematics. So, I learned mathematics from a young age.
What would you think the best answer for his question would be, and how would he be able to represent D&D through video games as not to scare off his parents?
That is a really good question, because while no video game can actually accurately portray the tabletop game, as we have just established, which one comes closest?
Probably Skyrim.
Skyrim?
Yeah. The reason I say Skyrim is because you can wander the world and literally take your own path. There is no dungeon master that changes the world around you, but you can find things that you can literally find straight up dungeons with straight up stuff in them.
Straight up stuff.
So instead of a dungeon master being a living human that dictates stuff for you, it's more like Skyrim's programming is your DM.
Basically,
So-
well, basically, what ends up happening is without the dungeon master, you're going basically. A video game is like the dungeon master set up a world, and what everything is, and where everything is, and what they are, what they'll say, and everything, and then leaves, and you play through it.
That's actually pretty interesting.
That is what a
Yeah.
video game can do, because you can't have an active DM in a game yet. So, I think again, Skyrim is probably the closest because you can adventure, you can level up, you can choose the path in which you level up.
You
more
can be good and
importantly.
evil.
You can be good and evil.
Or evil.
You can
Good
choose
or
a
evil.
lot of races and classes.
And promptly
so-
get wrecked by the town guards,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Stop! You violated the law. Pay the quarterfine and serve your sentence.
Your stolen goods are now forfeit. So, next question. Hope that answered your question well enough, Richie. So, next question is Dr. Goins. Hey there, my name is Savannah, and I'm from South Dakota. Hi, Savannah.
Are you Savannah as well?
I am Middle Savannah. I'm Lyric Savannah, and she's
Yes.
just straight up Savannah.
That's
So,
a joke.
I've got a question about role playing. You guys make, oh my god, I can't read. You guys make being creative and, oh my god,
You guys make bunnies.
my dyslexia is kicking in something fierce. You guys make being creative sound so easy, but I've got a major problem with coming up with things for my paladin. My character's name is Vanna because that's how uncreative I am. That's cute.
There's
That's really
nothing
cute.
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
Do you
that.
have any choice tips to help me out with character creativity? Like, what can I do to make Vanna's past more interesting other than saying her parents were killed? I'm trying,
She's
but
Batman.
she's Batman. I'm trying, but nothing's working. Help, Savannah J from New Mexico.
Is she a Dark Knight? Oh.
Wouldn't be a paladin.
Yeah, she would.
Yeah,
There's,
I would.
there's paladins of slaughter.
Batman is totally a paladin, dude.
Yeah, douchewagon.
Don't even.
Don't you even?
I will not go
Okay.
there.
There is a pretty easy formula that you can exercise that will help you be more creative. And that formula is take the obvious and reverse it. That's a very Japanese formula. If something seems like, okay, like character name, the obvious is, I'm going to take a part of my own name and make it into a character. Well, reverse it. Take someone else's name and change it.
That would not work for me because my name is literally 3 letters.
Yeah.
I would be like, my name is Ian, and I'm playing
Nah.
or
Nah.
or
Or in.
Well, my name backwards is just another name.
yeah.
Right. So, you can take and modify, just like for the names, you can take anything. Like I looked over there at the bookshelf and I saw this denizens, the word denizens. Okay, you can make a name out of that.
Yes.
Pretty easy. You could say Denizar or Edinin or Daenerys. So I'm not saying that's how he did it, but that is kind of suspicious. But if you take the obvious or something that seems uncreative and just tweak it a little bit, just modify it to something that is different. And saying this on actually, I'm a songwriter as well. And if you take a chord structure that is very, the 1-3-7 5-7 formula for the chord structure, you can take that and modify it just a little bit to give it a completely different flavor, and people think you're the most creative person in the world when all you had to do was just tweak one little thing. And I think that's generally what all of us do, right? I mean, we all have that same method, even though you may not have done it on purpose like that, but that's what you do. I've seen you guys do it before. So I think that's my short answer Just take the uncreative and tweak it.
What's your long answer?
A dissertation.
My long answer is several volumes.
I think I'm gonna chime in here. You asked for him, but I'm a help too.
Well, yeah. Clong.
I think being creative is almost an art, which means that it can be mastered and it can have newbies too.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to like coming up with a creative pass, I was there but I could not do it.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But I think the more examples that you have, the better that you can get with coming up with your own. For example, do some research. And that is by reading stories of all sorts. Like read creative books, read fantasy novels, forums, so on and so forth. There's also tons of generators that you can find online.
Yeah.
That can help out with, your creativity. And, like, you might find a name from this generator and find a name from this generator and match the two.
Yeah, if you Google Donjon, Donjon, that is they've got this huge list of fantasy and sci-fi generators that you can access for free.
As for coming up with characters' pasts, again, that's just something.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad, is what we're trying to say. Don't feel bad for feeling not inherently creative, because it is a process and it is kind of an art that someone needs to master.
Just like any muscle in your head, you get better at it the more you exercise it.
Right. So I'm going to say if you feel like you're not. I think Vanna is actually a pretty cool name.
Vanna's an awesome name.
But if you're feeling uncreative, just simply tweak something to it that makes it feel a little more out of the ordinary. Like, her parents died. But how? Sucked into the void.
You always grab
Where did the
Monster
void
Manual.
come from? She doesn't know. That's why she's on the adventure. Ta-da!
Or you can just grab Monster Manual, flip through, and blame it.
Right.
Yeah, I was killed by a human.
Oh, they are my worst enemy.
They are my worst enemy. Which would be great if you weren't human. The other thing is, and I think you mentioned this about reading, the reason why you want to do a lot of reading and a lot of research is to find out what everybody else is doing. Because if you know what everyone else is doing, then you can do something different. Right. And that is the pinnacle, I believe, of creativity.
What's popular? That's why I'm not do that.
Oh, here's another good one. I actually have a character who his goal in life is to find and kill his father and then commit suicide to avenge his mother's death. And that's a very, that's almost a Japanese mindset, going from like old feudal Japan. Yeah. And that's another great, another great example is use different cultures to influence your character.
Absolutely.
Especially if they're not of your culture.
And as we live in the age of Google and instant information, the world is literally out there at your fingertips. Yeah.
So, and I mean, another great way is just ask a friend. Maybe someone else can help you out. Ask your DM.
Hey, I can't think of anything. Come up with a name.
Bill.
Zorflak the Unstoppable.
Zalastruthus, the multisyllabic.
That's awesome.
Well, I think we're out of time for this episode, and we have 2 more questions, so I guess a part 3 is going to be on the way, too.
Part 3 on the way.
So, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, we are...
Dr. Jeff Goins.
Ian Goins.
Lyric Goins.
And our salute.
And at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You forgot. We wish for you to want for nothing but adventure.
Maybe I didn't say it on purpose so you could say it.
We wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.